actual like nice glasses. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, you're a better man than I am because I cannot do contacts.
All right, so it looks like we are live-ish. Let me just go ahead and try and pull it up on my phone so I can monitor the comments more accurately.
Always starts out as live-ish, which is what's
Indeed,
fun in
yeah.
that regard.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yeah. I just got the notification.
Beautiful. Cool. So let me grab that and put it out on our social medias so
There's
everyone
a
knows
joke
we're
there.
out and live.
Just the carpenter shirt here.
And there we go. And tweet. And there.
Which is actually one, Sam, brief, like, little side question for you. Do you think that that is a film that, with the current state of, so much more media just relentlessly, hitting us in the face and all that other stuff, and the fact that, social media and so many of these other advents, would you be down for a They Live remake?
Oh man, they are so on the fucking nose with the original. That if it were done correctly and updated to kind of incorporate a lot of what's going on now, I would say hells yes.
Yeah, it's like one of the few where I'd be kind of okay with it, but boy, with the sanctity that I hold that film in, and Keith David, and I mean, obviously, Roddy Piper, the former wrestler, and I had a big wrestling phase in my younger years, too. I mean, yeah, it would be one that they would have to tastefully do and make it relevant to this current day, but I just feel like based on topic and approach and message, it has the possibility, at least, to be, which is awesome, so...
All right,
I love
guys.
that movie,
It
man.
looks
It's my
like
favorite
we're good to go here. So we're everyone. It sounds good, and
Yeah,
got a lot
Dylan
of
Thomas.
people.
We have people here already.
Indeed,
Nice.
we've got Teddy Holiday here. Chris P is here. Dylan Thomas is here. Blood Red Skies already threw out a $2 super chat. Thank you very much.
Ashley
Anyone
Hoover.
seen Session 9? Terribly hyped film. I already responded. I watched it years ago.
I liked it.
I remembered it not living up to the hype around it, but I need to revisit it because I don't remember
That
it
was
nearly as
with
much.
Grieco, if I remember, Sam. Have you
Richard
seen
Grieco?
that one? Richard Grieco? The ginger dude, right? If I remember.
He may have been, but I know that God, I'm gonna forget his name now. David Caruso.
Oh,
was
okay.
definitely
Maybe that's the name I'm thinking of. Okay, it was about the guys who were cleaning out that old,
Yeah.
like large building, whether it was former medical or something, and there was like a ghostly presence of sorts.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't particularly scary. It was more so like unsettling and unnerving at times, if I remember. But some friends of mine swear by that movie.
Yeah,
so.
mine too.
Very, very, very creepy.
Okay, and then we also have Joshua Sarantine is here, Ashley Hoover, hey, Chance Moody, Eddie D, and so we'll get some other people filtering in, but yeah, guys, this is going to be a news discussion, even though Fuego and I aren't. I feel like we probably should have thrown on our
Yes,
things.
I know, and I even brought mine too.
He did.
We discussed it, but we're like, it's a little more casual news
Yeah.
and booze because we're with a friend today to discuss stuff.
Indeed. So once again, we are joined by. Let's just do this correctly. Hey, everyone! Welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Jaime Fuego.
And I'm Sam Glass in the Jonathan Harris role.
There you go. So once again, our awesome patron Sam, and quite frankly, I don't care if this just becomes the monthly Sam stream because the last one was a lot of fun. So
Very well received.
if
and
we,
rightfully
yeah,
so.
indeed, and
So.
if we don't get any other patrons that want to join up because they're shy, they're camera shy, then so be it.
And
Sam
there's
stream
lots
it
who
is.
are. There's actually lots of supporters we have where we talk with them, we interact with them on social media, and they're like, "Oh no, I could never be on."
Yeah, no, I declare,
I could
no.
not do that shizzle, man. Oh no way!
I just get Twitter pated.
Yeah, I get so Twitter pated, I just don't know what to do with myself. So Chaotic Bacon also just joined along with Jonathan Nichols. What's
That is
up?
quite a name. I like Chaotic Bacon.
Chaotic Bacon is
That's
good.
cool.
Is good. So, guys, we're gonna tackle a lot of news stories. I didn't even
A whole month.
basically tell Fuego, no, let's not. Usually, I have to whittle Fuego down.
Yeah.
This time, I'm just like, no, let's talk about that. No, let's talk about that. So, I don't know how long this is gonna go, but we're gonna talk about all the horror news that came out in June. Even though we're not in our shirt and tie, this is still the news with booze.
There you go.
Sam
And water, unfortunately.
and water. Fair enough.
Well, there's nothing unfortunate about it. We're
No,
the
you're being
derogatory-
smart. We're not. But I love your shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
As
One
I
of my
was
favorite
asking-
Carpenter shirts.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a good one. So all right. So yeah, Sam, we've got people like Ashley Hoover asking, how are you?
I am gaining weight and losing sanity. That's why I put it. But actually, I'm doing all right, though. I hope everybody else out there is doing the same.
I can relate to you on a very serious level on that. Yeah, this lack of being able to go out, and now I got to be honest with you, just as a little side, for anyone that missed the actual formal announcement that we put out last Sunday, we are officially expecting on this channel. I am expecting my first child coming in December. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm very excited about it. We did a whole minute-long horror-themed announcement last week, and what I've found is usually I'm happy to go walking along the canal, the dark canal behind my house, but now I'm like,
It is kind of formidable.
well, now I'm like, I don't know if I should do that. I don't know if I should get killed when I have a kid on the way.
It's
You know
like
what I
a
mean?
little
Like,
less disregard and just kind of, I'm impenetrable. I'm fine for everything. You have a little bit more to take into
I
consideration,
do.
which
So
makes sense.
I need to. I have to work within the hours of my Planet Fitness and go over there and do at home workouts like I haven't been. But I feel you, Sam. I feel you. But let's not focus on that this stream. Let's focus on all of the awesome horror news that we got. What do you say?
Indeed.
Yes.
All right. So, Fuego, obviously in the news. I tend to lean on you for these. Let's just go to the comments real quick one more time.
Yeah.
A lot of people saying congratulations. I greatly appreciate it, you guys. Thank you very much. Silent Mandalorian says, welcome to the Dad Club. Thank you. The Silent Mandalorian, you're a dad too now, so I get it. You feel me.
Yeah. I mean, taking care of little baby Yoda, one of the cutest things.
Oh,
I've
Chris
seen
P
in-
sends a
in
$5
the
super
last
chat with a
year.
congrats. Thank you very much. Not necessary at all, but I greatly appreciate the thought. Thank you guys very much for all the congratulations. But what do you say we all get right into the news? How
I
about
am
it?
very down
So,
for it,
Fuego,
man.
what is the first story? I mean, I feel like
We have the first story that you used as the
thumbnail.
title graphic, and since there wasn't as much to talk about this particular property, so I didn't necessarily include it right off the bat, but I know how close it is to your heart, so we have to at least say that Jason Blum gave an update about the positive progress of this movie that they've been trying to develop for, 2 or 3 years now?
Five Nights at Freddy's. Yes, we
Yes.
finally got an update on Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, this movie was in active production a couple of years ago. We even covered it on the show.
We did.
And then something happened and it fell apart. And then we got the Banana Splits, which some people posited that it was the abandoned effort of Five Nights at Freddy's that they then made into the Banana Splits. I don't buy into that,
There was
but
some curiosity about that, though. I'm curious if Sam saw it, honestly. If you saw that Banana Splits
Did you see
horror
that Banana
movie
Splits
that
movie?
they did like a
I
year or
have
so.
not seen it yet, but it's on my list. And Five Nights at Freddy's, I've been hearing about that for years and trying to catch up to it. I only started watching like the weird, very creepy pasta stuff on the net with "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared" and "Salad Fingers," but I never got to Five Nights at Freddy's though.
Yeah, Five Nights is great. I mean, the games are awesome. The idea is, of course, there's animatronics that are trying to kill people, kids, anything that are
Wow.
may or may not be haunted by kids that see the one of the stories is that there were kids that were kidnapped, killed, and stuffed into the bodies of these animatronics that then
Wow.
possess them, and now the animatronics seek vengeance by killing anything that they can. It's a fantastic story for a horror movie. It really, really is. And the games are just jump scare practicing sort of things. So a lot of people don't really cotton to the games as much as I did. We did Let's Plays of the first 3 games, including a drunken Let's Play of 3. But I think there's like 7 or 8 games at this point, including
Wow.
the VR that we also have. So I could technically do a VR Let's Play, but there's a lot of lore. The problem is it's very cagey lore. Scott Cawthon, that created the series, has not expressly said that anything is this way or that way. And he's actually just recently, in the past few years, started releasing Five Nights at Freddy's books. He
Yeah,
did a
there's 2
trilogy.
of them,
No, he
or-
did a
or 3,
trilogy, and
no.
now he's done a 5-book series that is separate. That
Has there
all
been
of
any
it.
comic stuff ever? Or did
No
they never
comics
delve
yet
into
that I
Which
know
is-
of.
yeah,
No,
which is
but
crazy.
it's a complicated mythology that only Scott, the original creator, kind of knows what's going on. But I imagine that he will be consulted enough to make a solid enough story that I think that, I mean, Nicolas Cage has a movie about this kind of thing coming out soon as well, but it's just not this. I think Five Nights, they really need to, Blumhouse cannot rush this, but they cannot abandon it either because it's too big of a money-making franchise. And honestly, anyone that's ever been to a Chuck E. Cheese knows how scary, or a Showbiz Pizza on the East Coast knows how scary the idea of these things coming to life trying to kill you would be. So it would make so much money.
Yeah, it was Pistol Pete's Pizza with me here in Arizona. That was another one. I don't know if that was anything national or regional or whatever, but yeah, anytime you had animatronic, creatures that seemed lovable, but there was something just a little bit off. You could even say the same for Disneyland and some of the other theme parks in a lot of ways where there's something just a little off. So,
Sam, what are your thoughts on this? Would you be interested in a movie about that?
I would be, but Blumhouse tends to go a little middle of the road with their budget, so it sounds like something they need to go into an association with somebody else to pump up that budget a little more to actually give it the service it deserves. Because you can't, if you go low budget with this, you can usually tell it's like, guys, really.
I agree. I think this would be closer to a 10 million budget than a 3 million budget that Blumhouse likes to do. I would tend to agree with you on that, Sam.
Well, and that was another thing that showed with Banana Splits,
Yeah, at least they
that
focused
low
the budget on the gore, though.
gore
That's the
was
thing. Like,
the
that's the
only
nice thing. Yeah.
The gore was the only reputable aspect in that movie.
It would have to be R, though. Yeah, they got to do it as R, because some of the stories in these books that are coming out now, like, I watch the Game Theorist and Film Theorist, same guy, Matt Pat, and he touches on Five Nights at Freddy's all the time. He's, in my opinion, the best theorist on the Five Nights lore on YouTube, but he's been telling about some of these stories that are super, super dark that, oh my God, anyone, any age, any gender, any race, it can get got by anyone in the Five Nights lore, and you have no idea how much actually beyond just the animatronics actually attack people.
That's how it should be.
It's
Everybody
really
is
crazy.
fair game in a horror movie. I mean,
so there's a lot to go on, and I think for the first movie they need to just focus on the animatronic aspects, but there is legitimately enough lore to do a probably 5-season TV series about Five Nights at Freddy's if they really wanted to.
They got ambitious pair with Hulu, who they've done the Into the Dark series with,
Right.
something like that. That could be cool.
They need better than that, but yeah.
Yeah, the Hulu and Netflix have the bucks to do it, so.
All right, so that's the story that was a
Yes,
non-story
yes,
that I
yes.
talked about for 10 minutes. So you go ahead, Fuego. What's next?
Well, and then the only other non-story, because of the fact that it's not so much a horror story, there was the recent news about Michael Keaton potentially in early talks for returning as Batman to just redon that cape. We don't know in what sort of fashion, but it would be in this Flashpoint film. I know you are well aware of the DC multiverse far better than I. I haven't read the Crisis storylines or watched that TV series with the CW or anything like that, but he was one character, or one iteration of Batman, I guess, that was most notably not present, and with good reason. Maybe they were holding out and hoping for a bigger name to bring in for this Flashpoint film. And because they did have Ezra Miller, he guested in that as his particular Flash character. So what it really circles into is this alternate timeline Cecil mentioned to me, where you have a different version of Thomas Wayne, so the father of Bruce Wayne, who becomes Batman instead. Martha Wayne becomes the Joker, so that has some horror tie-in stuff to it.
What?
Yeah. There's a lot of alternate
the
Burnham
Flashpoint
stuff.
Batman 3-issue series
I'm gonna
was
toss it
widely
off to you,
regarded.
man.
Flashpoint is a limited DC series where it was essentially a new crisis, where the Flash, in order to try and go back in time and save his mom, like Flash one day wakes up and all of a sudden his mom is dead when she wasn't dead the day before. And so he goes back in time and finds out that his nemesis, the Reverse Flash, went back and killed his mom. And so when he goes back to change it and fix it, when he does, he alters the entirety of the DC Universe timeline.
Oh.
So nothing happened the way it happened as far as we know it. And
So
one of the differences is instead of Thomas and Martha getting shot in the alley, Bruce was shot in the alley. And so Martha goes crazy and eventually becomes the Joker, whereas Thomas becomes Batman in this reality. And so, but he's a much more brutal Batman that uses guns and kills criminals. And like it's a really aggressive story that would be awesome. And there were rumors that Jeffrey Dean Morgan might return to play that role because he played Bruce's dad in Batman v Superman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he also showed his brutal capabilities as Negan on
And
The
as
Walking Dead.
as the comedian in the Watchmen movie,
That too. I forget he was in
So
that.
yeah, that's the coolest part of the Flashpoint thing. So the thing is, Michael Keaton wouldn't fit into that. So what we're thinking is Michael Keaton would appear, because in the Flashpoint you could see different versions of realities when he's running through the timeline. And so one of the flashes we could see would be Michael Keaton as the Batman Beyond Bruce Wayne, where he's now the Batman that we knew from the Burton movies, but now older and white-haired, and now the coach to the young Terry McGinnis that is now the Batman Beyond universe that they can fold into this new DC universe. So, and that's the thing, the Crisis crossover that they did on the TV series with The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and Green Arrow.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
Yeah,
obviously.
and Batwoman, actually. They had, a lot of different versions. They had the Smallville universe in there. They even had the girl from the Birds of Prey series that lasted one season in the late 90s. They had stuff from the Flash series from the 80s. So they basically said that everything is game that's ever been told in a DC story. It's all out there in a multiverse. And so Flashpoint can touch on any of it. And so one of the things is that they're saying Michael Keaton might be the Batman Beyond Bruce Wayne. I know I went off on a huge tangent there, but
no, you were framing
we're hitting
it
the
better
stuff
than
that I
could
love.
with
So
my
I know
last- yeah.
my brain hurts. If people are saying, I know, I'm so sorry, guys. But yeah, personally, Silent Mandalorian, I'm with you. I think the best Batman movie that could be made right now, and the one that I have the idea for, is a Clayface movie. I think a Clayface movie would be the best fucking Batman movie they could come up with right now. But nonetheless, that's enough of that. So what are your guys' thoughts on this now that I explained it all? Sam?
I've got homework to do because I've never read any of this stuff or seen a lot of the series on the CW, so I've got my work cut out for me.
Part of what made everyone love Flashpoint so much was, and this is a bit of a spoiler, but the Flash tells Thomas the deal about the universes, and he explains that Bruce survived and became Batman in another universe. So Thomas actually slips him a note that Flash gives to Bruce at the end of Flashpoint once he fixes it all. So Bruce has a note from his dad after all of these years saying that he's proud of who he's become and all of this stuff. It's just such an amazing storyline. That's why it doesn't make sense to do Flashpoint as the first Flash movie, except for the fact that it has some really amazing story points. Yeah. It, very much like the Death of Superman, should be like the third Flash movie, whereas they made it the second Superman movie, which was a mistake. They're going to make this the first Flash movie, which is a mistake, but...
Yeah, they've been teasing it for a while. Andy Muschietti, director of the It remakes.
That's the other tie-in,
Yeah, who's the one who's behind it. So,
pardon me.
I don't know. I'm very much with you, Sam, where I don't know very much about all of this stuff at all, but I'm kind of intrigued and along for the ride. And I just thought that, when you border on horror to a degree that we especially had in the second Tim Burton movie, I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about Batman Returns, but that's my favorite Batman movie. It's much more a Tim Burton movie than a Batman movie, and especially with the dark circus at the beginning and some of the horror aspects. And I love so many of the villains, even if they overstuffed the turkey just a little bit. I mean, Max Shrek. I mean.
All right, so Fuego, let's get into the stories proper
into
at this
real,
point.
Real horror that I, put together. So, So it's been known for a while that Fox has been purchased by Disney, which in turn means that some of their iconic properties, i.e. Predator and Aliens, are now under the Disney umbrella. And so there's a lot of speculation as to whether we are actually going to get R-rated versions of those, if they're going to be defanged and declawed and PG-13. But Fox did that at one point too with Alien vs. Predator. So the question that I have to ask Sam specifically is the fact that there were two reports this past month. One, that Ridley Scott still wants to do his third entry in a prequel series for the Alien universe, which is called Alien Ascension, if I recall correctly, and it would follow Alien Covenant. But then there is also Walter Hill and Dan O'Bannon, who have put together an Alien 5 script that they recently submitted to none other than Sigourney Weaver, and she was a little less on the idea. She thought
let Ripley
and the quote that was going around is that let Ripley rest, let her story be over with. Do you like the Alien and in turn the Predator movies and stuff like that, or do you think that it's played out and Fox should focus on other properties?
Okay, people as a whole, some fans, I should just put it more like that, did not really care for Alien Resurrection, where I loved the hell out of that because it went in some crazy ass directions and brought in some aspects that weren't existed in the other three, especially that version of Ripley, who I thought was completely a badass. I thought if they could expand on her persona the way they did in Resurrection and take that a step further, then it might be a worthy project. But if they're gonna like have same old Ripley, I don't know about that.
Yeah, it depends. I don't feel like this is the reaction Sigourney gave when it was the Neil Blomkamp continuation. So I feel like she read their idea and was like, maybe we should let Ripley lie. You know, I think that might be more of an indicator of the quality of the film they created.
Yeah.
As opposed to the finality of the Ripley character.
Yeah, Walter Hill and Dan O'Bannon being behind the original few films and stuff. I mean, Neil Blomkamp was the guy that she worked on with Chappie, and you know, she liked this young up and coming South African director that they had for this, and she liked his treatment. Michael Biehn was going to come back, and it was going to do the whole retcon thing that so many people are okay with based on Halloween and a few other properties, but this one would be a direct sequel to Resurrection, which I'm with Sam. I actually...
No. Oh, this one was a direct sequel to Resurrection?
This one, the new
taking place on Earth with the...
Well, it wasn't going to be the hell on... Or excuse me, the whole Earth War thing like we saw in the comic books, but Walter Hill and Dan O'Bannon's treatment is completely different than the retcon treatment. This would have been a direct sequel to 4.
Huh.
So... Yeah,
well, they would have had to be on Earth then, because they landed on Earth at the end of 4.
Well, they hinted at it.
No, they landed. They were soaring in out of the atmosphere.
But there's nobody who has seen this treatment other than the cover letter of the 50-page treatment that these guys have floated around.
50-page treatment.
50-page treatment. Yeah.
Jesus.
Wow.
That's an investment. Michael M. Ripley.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Lee.
Yeah, which is a bummer. And, you know, as much as I love some of the Dark Horse comic stuff, some of the novels that they have done, they've proven that with Weyland-Yutani and the just extended universe of this, you know, actual franchise, they don't need Ripley specifically. No. Although I love Prometheus, I did not like Covenant very much.
I rewatched Covenant recently.
I was not a fan of Covenant.
I still enjoy it as an Alien movie. I don't like the fact that we found out that David created the alien species. I think that's pretty fucking annoying.
Fassbender.
But, you know, whatever. I guess they have to play. It worked better as a originless species that was a force of nature. That just, you know, traveled through the cosmos. We don't know if it has a home planet or not. No. It's just, these are just things that just spread and spread and spread like spores across the galaxy. Yeah. Like, I like that. I don't want to have an origin of it. I thought that was the biggest mistake of Covenant. The rest of the movie, I enjoyed.
Yeah, the stuff that was a sequel to Prometheus I enjoyed, but, aside from that, the dumb colonists going on there and just...
I like the surprise of them killing the name at the very beginning in the pod.
Yeah.
I forgot who the name was even, but the dude catches fire in the pod right at the beginning, and it's like, oh, that was our name right there. I think it was the same, what's his name from the Disaster Artist and the...
Or was it Numi Rapace? I'm trying to remember.
No, the man. The man's character was the same dude from the Disaster Artist. Why can't I think of his name?
James Franco?
That's it, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was James Franco.
Oh, yeah,
you
that's
see his picture as one of the crew, but it's all you see is him on fire in the movie. So it was really hilarious.
Because he was shown in some of the promotional materials and then ended up not being like a major part of it. I don't know. So I mean, the essence of this like corresponding story aspect is that, okay, Ridley Scott still wants to do a third prequel, and yet there is still a floating idea for an Alien 5 that would be a direct sequel to what Sam was describing in Resurrection, which I think Resurrection gets a lot of hate too. It's so funny how 3 and 4 both had so many critics just berate them initially, and now people have kind of come around, and I think it was after those two really bad Alien Predator films where people were like, okay, yeah, we had better Alien films in the 90s, and maybe we should respect them a little bit more. And plus I'd like City of Lost Children, the French director who did Alien Resurrection made that movie with Ron Perlman, and that's a terrific film, and he brought some of that visual style to Resurrection, I thought. So
Next
up, okay. And the phone just keeps blacking out. And do you want to look at some of the commenting stuff in the meantime?
Yeah, no, we're pretty
anything?
up on the comments. Yeah,
okay.
Chris P says same. He liked Prometheus. Covenant was pretty crap.
Yeah,
I like Zachary Haight said, God, I hate David.
Oh man, Fassbender is one of my favorite actors. I think that guy's great. I think he's very talented. Okay, so we did find out
bigger dick than all the humans in the galaxy, apparently.
Hey, respect if that's the case.
That's apparently the case with Fassbender. That's what I heard. I never saw. What was that movie that he made?
Well, he was in the X-Men movies.
He was in a movie where he showed his crank, and like everyone's like, "Oh, he has one of the biggest ones in Hollywood."
I can't remember.
Oh, shame!
And there you go, Sam.
For the win.
Sam knows. Did you see that one, Sam?
Haven't seen it yet, and I don't know if it's on streaming or not. No pun intended.
I'm sure you can find that scene on some sites, but
Hey,
nonetheless,
they're there for a reason. Credit where it's due, as I said. So the next one is a little bit briefer of a story because of the fact that I know.
Now I hate him even more, says Chris P.
No, I'm well aware some people, myself included, had mixed ideas about the Creepshow series on Shudder, which has already been confirmed for a third season, which we have to mention. But Greg Nicotero is directing 3 episodes this season instead of, I think it was 1 or 2 in the previous one. We still haven't seen the full slate of guests or stories or adaptations or whatever. The industry has been ravaged hard by the current, pandemic and everything, people having to shut down productions and whatnot. But a second season with obviously more Nicotero and just more stories to be told. Did you guys like? Let's start with Sam, since I'm not sure. What did you think about the Creepshow series on Shudder? Did you get to see it, man?
It had, I don't want to say diminishing returns, but it's one of those cases where some episodes were better than others. I love the fact they got right bang on into the classics Creepshow motif by featuring Adrienne Barbeau. In the first episode, I was like, yes, this definitely gets thumbs up for me. The storylines tended to I don't know, differ in quality as you got into the different episodes. I love the fact that you had 2 short episodes in every segment, or 2 short segments in every episode. What were your favorites?
I personally still love the model house one. I really loved that. I thought that was such a creative story. I loved I thought the dinosaur one was cool, the Lake Champlain one,
which was based on the Joe Hill,
but I know there was a couple more. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I actually really enjoyed a majority of the stories, to be honest with you. There were a few that I didn't like that much, But I thought Gray Matter was okay.
Yeah, and that was the one that had Barbeau and Bell, Tobin Bell, right?
Tobin Bell and Gus Fring from Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
Giancarlo Esposito.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So there was a lot of talent in that one. That's actually one of my favorite Stephen King short stories ever. I was a little underwhelmed, unfortunately. It didn't quite live up to the expectations. I thought that was one that could have been expanded into a bigger story. And
the one with the skinny road trip kid was pretty funny, but the creature looked silly.
I was into the genie in the suitcase.
Yes, that was a great one.
That was a good one. And, another one, even though it was I think it was Paul Dini, if I'm not mistaken. It was the one about the weight loss fad where it was the weird worms.
That might be one of my favorites, yeah.
And where they kill the character or the worm or whatever it was with knocking over the candy machine. I thought just the irony, and it was gross and bloody and so funny. And I love dark comedy as far as when it comes to horror. So I mean, those are the episodes I was a little more into. I didn't like the weird zombie retribution with their heads on the playing field. I didn't like that was so dumb. Very much. That was with David Arquette, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So I feel like since it was still a rating success, they probably have lured some bigger names and some more interesting, horror peeps, directors, whatever.
They could step it up for season 2, yeah.
Yeah, which is what I would dig. I mean, in the comments in the chat, and obviously, guys, did you really dig this? Did you think it was a solid selection from Shudder? And I love anthology horror. I watched the first 5 episodes of season 2 of The Twilight Zone this past week. It still is hit and miss as the previous one was.
Anthologies tend to just be that way
merits,
now. I tell you, the one that kind of bucked the trend, even though it still had one weaker installment, but overall, Scare Package was one of the strongest outings for anthological horror in recent memory.
Streaming on Shudder, yeah.
It's hilarious. It's fucking hilarious. Really there was only one where I was like, okay, but the rest were all really good.
Yeah.
So. Definitely worth another thing that's worth a look on Shudder. Yeah, Zachary Hayes said he liked The Finger, which was the one with the kid from Euro Trip or Road Trip, whatever it was.
Oh yeah, that was the one with the little growing creature that he kept as the pet and everything.
He's also in Supernatural. As
that was Bob.
Bob, right?
Yes, because he named it.
So I was thinking, I would love to have my own Bob, but probably couldn't be trusted to have one. So.
All right, Fuego. So what's next then?
Nice, man. So next up is going to be scrolling down really quickly. Okay, so there is mention from the Ghoulies creator by the name of Jeffrey Levy that he would like to reboot the franchise. This was a bloody, disgusting exclusive. This might have been one that I should have pushed a little bit back into the discussions, but I actually recently watched the first Ghoulies. And I think it was
we did a review for Patreon.
It was for a Patreon request, and I enjoyed some of the whimsy and stupidity of it. It's not Gremlin status or maybe even Critters 2, but I still enjoyed it.
There was way more to it than I remembered there being, with the demonic cult and the summoning of the creatures and stuff. I was like, dude, I didn't remember any of this. I just remembered part 2 then, where they're all at the carnival and there's the ass chewing toilet ghoulie, you know.
Because you don't even really get the toilet gag in this first film, which they still used in the marketing campaigns that I thought kind of amusing. So this is a deeper dive, Fright fans, as far as this stuff. Do you have any affinity for the Ghoulies franchise, Sam? Have you watched any of these films?
Man, Fuego, in the interest of full disclosure, I could not stand the Ghoulies franchise.
Nice.
Because I went into, at first it was Gremlins, okay. Critters, we're pushing it. Spookies, really? Spookies.
And Cooties, too, right? Was another one?
Finally, Ghoulies was like, okay, I'm stopping right here. Ghoulies, that's enough.
Hobgoblins is the absolute bottom of the barrel. Hobgoblins.
I'm not even familiar with those.
I picked that up from Vinegar Syndrome, and that is the thing I regret most paying $20 for. I was like, this is the worst. I also paid $20 for The Suckling, which I thought was going to be the worst of my pickups, ended up being the best. Sam, have you ever seen The Suckling?
Heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Dude, check that out. That is old school good creature horror. This chick has a baby that rapidly grows into a monster that wants to kill everyone. It's crazy. It's a mutated, because the fetus is born and it falls into toxic waste. And so it mutates into this creature that tries to kill everyone, and the creature effects are bomb as hell. It's really cool. But yeah, I watched Hobgoblins and then that, and Hobgoblins was just the worst of the worst. I've never seen the Munchies, which is I think another Gremlins thing.
Yeah, that was another one.
But I don't know. I don't know how that is versus Hobgoblins. To me, right now, Hobgoblins is the bottom of the barrel of these movies, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, sidetrack. A new Ghoulies, sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, curious enough, I suppose. I was looking briefly at what Chance Moody said, where he's like, I was bummed with Grey Matter and Road Virus Heads North, but Road Virus Heads North was actually from a TNT limited anthology series called Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which was all Stephen King adaptations. It was alright. There was maybe 2 or 3 on that one that were good. One in particular called Crouch End that had Claire Forlani in it that was really good, but, there is more bad entries. Anytime you have more bad entries than good in an anthology, whether it's written or whether it's on, any sort of visual situation, that's where it gets...
Can you refresh my memory on what Road Virus Heads North was?
Yeah, which one was that?
Road Virus Heads North was... if I recall correctly, that's where the dude picks up something at a, it's a secondhand store of some particular sort, and he is driving on this sort of road trip. Boy, this is one that Nightmares and Dreamscapes is not one of my favorite Stephen King shorts. I often get this one and End of the Whole Mess confused because they were both adapted in the same one. But yeah, it was about just some sort of negativity with a thing that he bought at it was like a piece of art or a medallion or something. It is like totally driving me crazy when the fact that I'm not recalling it when there's hundreds of Stephen King stories to remember, and this not being a particular favorite. End of the Whole Mess is where it's one of the stronger ones from that series, along with Crouch End. And End of the Whole Mess is about this dude who he develops a almost serum that he wants to deposit into the water systems in various areas of the United States that have just lots of hostility and negativity amongst any sort of people who live there, race, gender, whatever, and it makes them so docile that it has a counter effect where in turn it invokes the end of the world, and it's like a very very messed up little bit of storytelling. But the Road Virus Ends North is, if I remember correctly, a cursed piece that is taken from one guy and just brought up, and there's just instance after instance of some sort of trailing evil presence as he is driving northward after buying this thing. If I remember, it was not that memorable, but in any event, that's about where we're at.
All right, so next story then.
Next story would be... That's the thing, the phone just keeps going into its little stages here. Sorry, everybody.
No, your phone knows my phone very well.
Losing ratings. Yeah, I have a iPhone 6, good sir, and it does not comply all too often. Okay, so after going through a very boring story with the Ghoulies, this is one that I think a lot of people actually find some interest in. So they had been teasing a new Evil Dead movie that unfortunately was not going to have Bruce Campbell for a while, but Sam Raimi would be producing along with Groovy Bruce, and they have apparently handpicked the director of a film that we both liked but didn't love. It was called The Hole in the Ground. I think it was an Irish movie, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and I mean, visually it was a good story, just didn't really wow us or anything. But this guy named Lee Cronin, and we also found out that it is now been titled Evil Dead Rise. So we don't know if
instead of Evil Dead Now, which was retarded.
Yeah, which would have been
Pardon me.
Yeah, so we don't know.
Which was a bad choice. I didn't mean to use
Milk was
R word in a pejorative
choice.
term.
But
Forgive me.
But I mean,
above that.
We don't know if this would have Jane Levy in it, who was in Don't Breathe and the Evil Dead remake, which a lot of people have been championing her return. They really enjoyed that. Maybe Bruce would have just a little cameo. Would we have Paco? Would we have, Kelly? Anything of that nature? Nobody knows any specifics, but there is a new Evil Dead movie in production. all of these spin-offs, Sam, and different characters, if it doesn't have Bruce, are you okay with it? Did you like the remake? Did you see it, I guess, first and foremost?
I still have not caught up with Ash versus Evil Dead, the series yet.
That's fun.
So I haven't had
cool.
my fix of Bruce yet. A lot of people are kind of like, love him, but if the series didn't have him, we could probably do without it. I think they should bring him back, though, because he does have his fan base. And they will follow him into whatever the new movie is going to be, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. So they probably should just think about bringing it back, even for just a cameo.
Well, agreed. Yeah.
Michael M made me laugh with canceled.
What did he say?
After I made my
Canceled.
R-word thing. He canceled me.
Did you see the remake, though, that they did a few years ago where it didn't have Bruce and until like a post-credits, and it was trying to go back to the vibe of the very first movie, The Evil Dead, and it was not humored. It was just very, like, insanely violent. Did you see that one or no?
I did, and to be honest with you, because the humor, intentional or unintentional, was not there, the special effects were kick-ass. I mean, they did not spare the squibs, the blood, anything for that. So I give them the props for that.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was just so straight-laced and we're not laughing or winking at the audience one bit here, it's all just played deadpan. I didn't get into it as much as I did the original first one. But Jane Levy, I mean, seeing her in Don't Breathe, she definitely needs to get more work, because she was phenomenal in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love Evil Dead, so I'm happy to see more, especially if Sam and Bruce are involved. Even if Bruce isn't on camera, who knows? They'd probably try and surprise us with a special scene at the end where he shows up or something like that in today's day and age.
Both produced the remake that Fetty did, who also did Don't Breathe. So there is a connection with Jane's character as well. But yeah, I'm totally with our buddy Sam Glass here in the fact that so we have a distinction between Sam Raimi and Sam Glass. So I feel like the series reinvented itself with the implementation of more humor into and in Army of Darkness. And when they went back to more of a, just, I don't know, gory and not funny sort of approach, I was impressed with the visuals, just like you, but I didn't like the tone of it as much. But I haven't revisited it since my first theatrical experience because of the fact that it was like, nope, not going to do it. It's another one of those like The Thing, the prequel they did, and a few others where I relegated them to certain sectors where it was like they did something unsanctimonious, and that was like, I don't know, not respectful of the source material. But
I've pretty much loved every Evil Dead movie that has come out, including the remake.
And we talked about this in the tier ranking too.
I did. I loved it. The gore was phenomenal, and they leaned into it. They made it scary again instead of, a horror comedy. I although there were some comedic elements when the house burps up body parts at the end, like towards the end. I loved that. I thought it was great. I thought. The main character, Jane Levy, did an excellent job. And geez, I don't know. I love everything about the series. So, I would love to see more. I don't care in what format, as long as it's of the same quality. To be honest with you, Ash vs. Evil Dead is on a lower tier than all of the movies were, in my opinion, just a little bit.
To a degree, yeah. It was just kind of whittling it down and spacing it out, as opposed to, because there was a lot of throwaway episodes on that show that just weren't that funny. So
fluff,
weren't that
as it were.
Yeah.
So let's see. Horror Nerd is here. Hello, Horror Show. Chance Moody says they liked it. Loved all the Evil Dead movies. Don't really care if they have campy comedy in it or not. They always end up fun. Zachary Hayes says he didn't like the remake, but wanted to check out the unrated cut. Robert Duell was in here briefly, said the remake sucked. Graphics and gore were cool, but just bury her and she's not possessed anymore. Okay. Mike's Book Reviews is here. What's up, sir?
Yeah,
I thought I had a really kick-ass t-shirt collection until I discovered Fuego's variety. Yeah.
Shucks, that's not the case.
That's some Big Chris quality right there.
Yeah, yes indeed. Shout out to Big Chris, but also shout out to Mike's Book Reviews, and if you guys are into stuff even beyond the Stephen King, the horror variety, all of the most comprehensive coverage of fantasy that I have ever seen. Wheel of Time, so many other series that I can't even fathom. The dude is comprehensive and awesome in every regard. Mike, you're a badass.
We also just got a comment from Horrorman36 that says, rather see Bruce do Bubba Hotep 2. Well, we may never get that.
We held out hope for that. Ossie Davis, man.
No, we probably won't get that. But if you're interested, they did do 2 Bubba Hotep comic book series. We've reviewed both on the channel. The first was Bubba Hotep and the Cosmic Bloodsuckers, which was a prequel, right?
It was a prequel.
Or was it a sequel? I can't remember.
No, that one was the prequel where he was back helping out like Nixon and everything.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Versus some vampires. That was fun enough. And then they did Army of Darkness versus Bubba Hotep as well, which we also reviewed. So both versions of Bruce Campbell met each other in the comics, and it's pretty fun. So if you want more Bubba Hotep, there is more Bubba Hotep in comic book form out there.
Yeah, they didn't like each other initially, but
we may never get Bubba Hotep 2, but on the very, very slim chance that we do, Ossie Davis is definitely irreplaceable. But if you got to replace him, I got 2 words for you: Morgan Freeman. Done.
Oh, there you go.
If they get Morgan Freeman, I would be on board for that.
Amen. Oh yeah.
Okay, so Tony T, have you seen Event Horizon? Yes, we did a review and a commentary for the movie. We absolutely love it. But Fuego, what's next?
Yeah, well, and they were working on that new deluxe edition, trying to find that old footage from.
That's bullshit. That's just Scream Factory said they were working on the footage, but the footage was destroyed. There's nothing to work on.
Yeah, the director had even said that, unfortunately. So
they said we're gonna do our best, and now everyone's like, we may get the director's cut we've always wanted. It's like, no, they said they're gonna do their best, which means they have absolutely no leads on what they're going to do because the footage was destroyed.
Yeah, all of that footage in hell, which we saw those brief little glimpses of, and that's the stuff I always wanted to check out. From
same with everyone, but the footage was destroyed.
Yes.
Unless it's in a box, in a basement, in a house that no one has gone into in like 30 years somewhere.
It would be awesome, but tough to see if that would happen or not.
Yeah.
I think My Name is Bruce 2 is in the works, says Zachary Haith. I doubt it, but that would be funny. I liked My Name is Bruce. That was fun.
It was funny.
It was fun. We reviewed it on the channel, I think, didn't we?
That's where he was playing himself, and there was the pseudo-alien invasion and everything. Yep. He did a few direct-to-video / sci-fi channel stuff at that time that I just kind of cringed at, but I found them so bad they were at least enjoyable enough. So that was one of them. The next bit that we were going to just briefly jump upon is the fact that David Coop, who just put out a film with Kevin Bacon. Kep? I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but he's written some great stuff, like adapting Jurassic Park and a few other things, and then he's done some pretty not so interesting and servable stuff. But he directed that new film with Kevin Bacon. You Should Have Left? I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, You Should Have Left.
Yeah.
Following up their effort together in Stir of Echoes, which we loved, which the review, I think we actually put that review up already,
Yeah. But, he has done another treatment of his Bride of Frankenstein script, which was originally going to be with Angelina Jolie. We don't know if they would recast, but it is apparently being fast-tracked once again at Universal once they can actually, do this sort of stuff again. I guess after The Invisible Man was successful...
They're going to do Bride of Frankenstein before Frankenstein?
It's strange, but they were planning it already even before, and they were going to have Javier Bardem play the Frankenstein monster in Bride of Frankenstein and do a little flip ski. Okay, this is where we have to ask Sam, because we know your affinity for that sort of classic horror. This sort of reinterpretation and, doing stuff non-sequential, what are your thoughts?
Main thought is, like with any remake, if there's nothing fresh you can bring to the table, leave the motherfucker alone.
Amen.
just let it lie. Because The Fog, good example, was that really, really necessary. I recently just was channel surfing, came across that again. I thought, was it really? Did it really suck that bad? So I gave it a few minutes. Yeah, it sucked that bad.
I watched it once, never again. Yeah.
Yeah, that was at the
like,
time where they were trying to take those older R-rateds and PG-13 them, and they just didn't have the same oomph, even though the
Well, it was
fog
also
wasn't-
Tom Welling trying to stretch his non-TV legs, getting out of Smallville.
Ah, really? Man.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know
It's
that.
like Tom, good effort, man, but try something else.
Stick to Superman for now, buddy.
Yeah, but basically, when we do remakes like that, I mean, we always have the golden era of remakes: the Fly, the Blob, and the Thing. That was like the pinnacle.
That's the Holy Trilogy, as I call it.
The
from the
Holy
80s,
Trinity,
yeah.
exactly. But we haven't really seen another period like that since, have we?
Not really. Not that many solid ones in a row.
Not in, and definitely not in modern times. I always think that every 20, 30 years, it's okay to attempt another interpretation, just to see. And, they've been trying to redo The Blob for a while. Samuel L. Jackson was originally attached to it. I think even Rob Zombie was attached to direct at one particular point, but they couldn't get the script right. There was the debate of practical versus digital and how much they would try to attempt both. Yes, there were some digital effects in that 88 Blob that Frank Darabont and Chuck Russell did. Chuck Russell being the director of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, that was his follow-up film. It's another reason I love that movie so much, but I mean, once again, you have to have a just interesting, distinctive way of doing it. Otherwise, it's a cover song that sounds exactly like the previous song it's trying to
13
mimic.
Ghosts,
So-
after doing that, remains one of my favorite remakes now, because that is such a fun movie
Which
still
you just
to this day.
revisited recently, right?
Yeah.
It's got Matt Lillard. if
Matt
I
Lillard
remember.
from
Shannon Elizabeth,
2001.
or was she...
Were you not in on that review? Was that me and
Get to.
Robert?
That was you and Robert. That was
Oh,
one that I
that was
really
you
wanted
and
to
Robert.
rewatch.
God, that movie is so good still. So, yeah, that's
And
definitely...
the visual design on that is something that still remains incredible.
Yeah, the production design all through the house and the design of each of the ghosts.
Yeah,
Like,
Dark
so cool.
Castle didn't really mess around. Not all of their scripts were that good. Like the Ghost Ship, it wasn't that good. But I mean, they still had some. They were trying to carry the horror banner before Blumhouse tried to start doing it a number of years later. So I kind of respect that, man. I do.
Well, it was really tragic that the 3 they didn't catch on the way they should have, because I know the original mission statement for Dark Castle was taking all of William Cass's library and dusting all the scripts off and spruce them all up. But we only got those 3 because it didn't do like box office blockbuster numbers. So we'll never find out what it would have been like to say update the Tingler. I would have loved to see what they would have done with that.
Deep cuts.
Yeah.
Damn. That's not
I don't
even one
even know
that I
that
know
one.
off name, unfortunately.
Don't know that
Tingler,
one.
You said
The
the
Tingler?
Tingler?
Yeah, with Vincent Price.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, that's
With the creature that was created from some lab experiments that apparently is fear manifested as a physical form, and it attaches itself to your cerebral cortex, and basically squeezes your brain off so that you die
Jeez.
Holy shit.
fright. And the only way to disattach this from your cortex is to scream as loud as possible.
Damn.
Wow.
That's interesting. Okay. Huh.
Notes,
yeah,
that,
it's
notes that
worth
need to be
checking out.
made, obviously. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they only did what those 2 that we mentioned, and then was it Haunting of Hill House, or was that? Or actually, no. There's a couple different haunting movies because I know
The
there was
Haunting of Hill House,
the
and then The Haunting. Yeah. The Haunting was not good.
Yeah.
The Haunting of Hill House was good.
The Haunting from the 80s or was the 90s?
No, the one with Zeta Jones from the 90s. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, the
oh,
one with Liam Neeson and
from,
boy, it had
from The Conjuring,
Wilson.
God, what's her name?
Oh,
from
she
The
is in
Conjuring.
it. Yes, I know
Yeah.
who you're talking
Oh,
about.
that
Her
was
name
her,
eludes
huh?
me. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Trip. 20 years earlier. All right. So what's next, Fuego?
Well, we have to at least briefly talk about Resident Evil 8, which was just recently announced.
Oh, the game.
yeah, the video game. You have a little bit more.
Yeah, well, the
insight to
game
this
was
than me.
announced officially at the PlayStation 5 reveal. It's a PlayStation 5 game, and it is a sequel, obviously, to Resident Evil 7, but not so obvious because Resident Evil 7 is not a direct sequel to 6. It's a new story that took place with new characters in a new setting, and 8 is a direct sequel to 7, following Ethan from the first or excuse me, from 7. And it will, or at least the thinking is that it will also be available to play entirely in VR the way Resident Evil 7 was.
Which you played both, right? You
I
played the
did.
regular version and you
I played through about half of it in VR, and then something happened. Like in between the 2 years when I first played it and when I played it again later, I started to get motion sick playing it, so I couldn't finish it in VR.
That's something that Luis, who has been on the channel a few times here and there, he says the VR, whether he's playing on a game or he's in a theater, it doesn't sit well with him. It just throws him off, and
so yeah, I don't know. I'll try it in VR just like I tried this one, but I'm sure after a half hour I'll have to switch it off because that's about as much as I can take without starting to get sick.
I feel you there.
But yeah, it should be fun. The last one was fun. This one should be fun too. Are you into the Resident Evil games at all, Sam? Have you ever played any of them?
I never played them, but I did get into the movies kind of. So I know about the series that way. I did like the first couple of movies, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely diminishing returns as time went on in that series. But I mean, hey, a lot of horror fans seem to love the hell out of it, so we continue to at least cover it. There's scant details. We just know it's going to be on PS5 sometime around the launch. And Cecil's given me that look because there's still a lot of other stuff that we just need to at least get some brief thoughts about. We're going to skip around a couple of these other smaller ones, but so there is a John Boyega film before he did Star Wars called Attack the Block. That was a Joe Cornish film, and they apparently had a recent meeting about trying to do a sequel. Finally, they've been batting around ideas for a number of years, but now that he has all of his Star Wars commitments done and over with, now they're thinking it's going to be a legitimate feasibility, and they have a story structure in progress, and they're trying to get it scripted in the next few months of quarantine, which is at least one opportunity for artistic people to try to structure out those ideas. Are you a fan of that film? It's more alien invasion sci-fi than it is like full-on horror, but it does have its moments. I think you and I are both pretty big fans of that one, man. Yeah. I mean, I know one person in particular, Mikey Mnemonic, is not a fan of that movie for whatever reason, but nonetheless, do you dig this possibility?
Absolutely, because there are very few horror sci-fi movies that are set in that particular setting, which is the projects in Britain.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the first, I think, that actually did that.
Well, the projects period outside of Candyman.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, definitely. Because you don't see that many movies that have that setting to them.
And honestly, it was, at the time, there was, if I recall, a disturbing lack of really cool, original, unique creature movies.
Mm-hmm.
And that is definitely one. The design of those creatures, which are essentially hairy black voids with teeth, are just, it's so cool and frightening and different and just intimidating, like I loved that movie, and I would cherish the opportunity to go watch more of that story.
Yeah, and I would love to see Cornish go back to more horror, because he did The Kid That Would Be King this past year that I actually liked. It was a cute PG.
I heard that was the
was
creatures
fun.
And everything were pretty cool. In the trailer.
Yeah, it's him veering more so into like the Potter type era and stuff, or like territory and stuff like that. But seeing him as opposed to do PG-13, safer sort of stuff where he was trying to make money, just go into more of a visceral, more of a, I guess, edgier sort of situation. And also, after some of the diminishing returns of those last few Star Wars movies, I would like to see Boyega balls out with it, man, and just be an edgier character, because he was relegated so significantly because they set up mythology, without me going Star Wars crazy, in Force Awakens. They set up so much for Finn to do, man, and they just bullshitted his character, and even Poe's character too. Like, they didn't really do much with those characters in those preceding. And if they had a plan for those new Star Wars movies, it would have been significantly better, but jumping around with directors and altering mythos and everything, it was just a bummer. So yeah, that dude can act, and I want to see him in more and more at this particular point.
Yep.
So, hell yeah. Well, we're going to skip over that one, because who wants to talk about Ray Bradbury? I would like to, but it's fine. There's apparently this will be the lightning round since we've been on for
Okay. Yeah, we've
an
been running
hour
an hour
at this
already.
particular point. That same, did you know that there's 2 different new versions of the Others, the Nicole Kidman film, that are happening? There is a movie, and then there is also a television series, apparently, conjunctively in development. I think that's overkill for a movie that was solid, but not something that wowed me as much as for some others. Do you have an affinity for that film, or not so much? Do you think they need to be doing this much with the property?
I like the movie a lot, but yet that might be stretching things a little bit too far, because it's a great ghost story, but I wouldn't put it on the same level as, say, a Changeling or the original ghost story with Alice Krige from the Star Trek series. That was one hell of a ghost story. Now, if they wanted to extend that into a series, I think that had more potential than this does.
Now I'm trying to remember, Changeling, George C. Scott?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
Wasn't that a really
Boy, it's
early
been
Angelina movie?
It
Or
was
am I
a
misremembering?
70s movie, if I'm
Oh,
not
yeah, then
mistaken.
way too early
George,
for
George
her.
C. Scott. I mean, Patton, for God's sake. But
I don't know why I have that associated.
that's
with her
one
for
that I
some
haven't
reason.
seen in so long. That was shortly after, like, Rosemary's Baby and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That whole... But... I don't know. It almost seems like cart before the horse in a lot of ways, where, how much I love my
Oh,
Stephen
because she
King.
was in the 2008 version. That's why.
Yeah, how much I love my Stephen King stuff, and when they announced a movie,
just
but
called
also
Changeling.
a corresponding television series that would be
Different
a
movie
proverbial
entirely.
prequel, maybe they're just trying to go full force with, we'll explain backstory for what happened at the home that, Nicole Kidman and her kids have been trapped out without sixth sensing it and spoiling anything, and trying to do that for a movie that's very old at this particular
It was actually
time.
the first movie that really a lot of people were like, "Hey, that's just the Sixth Sense ending that you just did."
Because it was shortly thereafter. Yeah, in a lot of ways it was, and I guess we've kind of spoiled.
I
that
don't
in
think
that
it
regard.
needs to be both. I think if they're going to do it as a series. Don't do it as a movie and a series. We saw the movie. If you're going to remake it, do it as a series. Same way I think if you're going to remake Nightmare on Elm Street again. It's got to be a
Exactly.
series. You can't do another Nightmare on Elm Street movie, because all people are going to do is compare it to the first one. If you expand it and make it a series, and then it can be more of its own thing.
Yeah, which is
because
sorry,
at
Sam,
a
take
certain
it away.
point, you're double dipping the chip, and it's like, you don't do that.
No,
Don't double dip.
not while everyone's watching, for sure.
Yeah, supplement the mythology. I mean, that's one thing with the improvement of these streaming services, especially whether it's Prime, Netflix, Hulu, even some of the more premium cable networks, whether it's HBO, Stars, Showtime, whatever, they allow you the opportunity to tell a story in 8, 10, 12 episodes, and you can expand, and with the proper creative team behind it, there's so much more you can do as far as developing an IP and making it a little more interesting, and helping out with that sort of mythology. We're getting close. Thanks everybody for bearing with. Ryan Murphy wanting to do a spin-off series.
I thought we already covered this. By the way, didn't we already mention that he was doing horror stories?
Maybe we had mentioned it in the last movie thing.
I thought we had,
bit of
yeah.
news.
So,
If
sorry,
so-
I didn't mean to step on your toes.
No, you're fine, man. We just got the confirmation that Ryan Murphy is going to be doing a anthological spin-off series called American Horror Stories, plural. So as opposed to being the season format, it's going to be individualized, Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, Black Mirror sort of situation where each story is just its own thing.
They probably should have
Exclusive-
done this 3 seasons ago.
Yeah, exclusive on Hulu.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe this is a reactionary bit to the fact that the new season has had to be pushed back in the production because, all the people from Macaulay Culkin being a part of it, various other returning people like Evan Peters and Sarah Paulson. Yeah, they're not going to be able to start the filming when they had initially hoped to, and so that's a thing. But I don't know. I've enjoyed a lot of what Ryan Murphy has done, especially with this series in particular, and so I'm cool with seeing what Hulu could do in this particular variety. I think I briefly mentioned this earlier in the storytelling, and we didn't have a decent.
I'll
bit.
try the first season
Yeah.
and see what happens, but I abandoned American Horror Story a few seasons ago, so...
It's when
Yeah,
I'm
just judging by the past experiences we've all had with AHS and the various seasons. When it goes right, it's awesome. When it goes wrong, you get stupid ass characters that are there for no reason.
Yeah.
You get great characters that get short sheeted, short sheeted because they end up being relegated to the background, or it's like, well, where in the hell did so and so go? I mean, they were so great, and now we're 3 episodes in, and they haven't done anything with them. So if we can concentrate Ryan's focus on individualized episodes in an anthology series, I think he might be able to really do something worthwhile with the format.
Hopefully so. I mean, the problem also was that if you didn't like the storyline of the season, you were stuck with it for like 13 episodes.
Thank you.
And it's like I hated Election that year.
That's where they lost me. Was
Cult.
Yeah, Cult, right.
Cult,
I hated it. It was called Election before it was actually released as Cult.
Okay.
But I didn't even finish that season. I watched the first episode of Apocalypse and didn't finish it. I never even tried 1984, which is the only one I'm even remotely interested in trying. But I like episode-to-episode anthological horror so much more that, again, I'll give this a try. But Ryan Murphy, I think, started to get away from telling a good horror story and started to get too much into different kind of stories that had less to do with horror, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I wasn't as much of a fan of that.
I was trying to remember. He did Scream Queens or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, which I liked, actually. I enjoyed that
It was
satirical, joking, poking fun at the horror genre, because the horror genre is easy to poke fun at, but
yeah.
All
right, Fuego, what else you got?
Cecil, you'll be surprised to hear this, but I think you would probably like 1984 out of all the previous seasons, because Cult I didn't even watch.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it the first few minutes of episode 1 and went, nope, sorry, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Roanoke I couldn't finish.
See, I liked Roanoke.
Yeah,
I thought Roanoke was good.
Although the whole thing with this series it's like the tale of 2 seasons, where they often, as you mentioned, they'll focus on a character for a few episodes early on or later on, and then they don't revert back to it. And I mean, Roanoke was 2 seasons completely.
Yeah, it was 2
the
different
A
stories.
And the B format, and so that was a little jarring.
I liked it though. I thought Roanoke was entertaining the whole way through, at least. But again, I'm a big fan of, like, even though I don't watch them because they're so repetitive, I do like extreme examples of ghost shows, paranormal shows, and so that was them doing the American Horror Story version of a paranormal show, and I enjoyed that. So,
cool.
Let's make sure to not miss the Clive Barker story, because that's
yeah. That was what I was going to end on. I mean, really, we just had thoughts about the fact that George Romero's long lost film Amusement Park is going to be finally released. It was uncovered by his widow, and it's going to be put out by Yellow Veil Pictures. I'm not that familiar with this movie. I think he did it in between the original Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Have you heard anything about this movie, Sam?
From what I've read, Lincoln Mazel, the guy that was in Martin that played the grandfather, is the main star of the amusement park. And from the synopsis that people has been giving on what the film is supposedly about, it sounds very, very similar to a movie by Simon Rumley called The Living and the Dead. I don't know how familiar you are with him or with the movie, but I would say while you're waiting for amusement park, check that shit out first. It is one of the most horrifying, heartbreaking movies you'll ever watch, and it tackles a lot of issues that are even relevant today. And this was made probably back in like the mid-2000s, if not farther back.
So here's my issue with it. I'll give it a look, but what I tend to find is when all of this artistic content comes out posthumously, it's not always the best. Like, somehow Jimi Hendrix is still releasing music, And like it's not all good. Like someone will just take a phone call that he made and throw a beat on it, you know, like that got recorded and be like, look, this was an unreleased track. So I'm worried that if this was sitting in Romero's shelves, that it was there for a reason, you know, and
that's something.
And like, would he be okay with it? Like, maybe he's like, no, I didn't want that out there for a reason. I'm gonna get canceled in death, you know, like something like that. Who knows, you know?
Well, I've heard it's relatively short, and that Romero didn't professionally release it because he wasn't as happy with the finished product as he wanted to be. He was still trying to get.
If the guy that made Land of the Dead wasn't happy with it, then I don't want to see it.
And Cecil, honestly, that hyperbolic bullshit that you always talk about has already started. You know, the most horrifying film Romero ever did before, you know, Night of the Living Dead. And you're like, really?
That's why it was unreleased, because of the fact that it was just too much for audiences, screened for a few people. Or
wait, but that if it was
whatever.
Before Night of the Living Dead, that would mean it would be too much for audiences in the early 1960s.
I think it was in between Night and Dawn.
Okay. Well, that gives us at least 20 years of leeway, I suppose.
Well, in about a decade.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, because he did one every decade, kind of.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I'll give it a watch, but if it's a bummer, it's like, great. Like, I already had to deal with Diary of the Dead and Land of the Dead and all of his, like, garbage Dead movies that totally shit on his own memory as far as I'm concerned. He was getting a little
older and out of touch, and you really hate to say that because not every director can maintain that as they continue onward. But
zombie, excuse me. God, I'm sorry. I don't know what just happened. I just sneezed.
And I've also heard this is more of like a grindhouse kind of like action-y sort of thing as opposed to like a full-on horror movie. So it makes me wonder if the movie that Sam had mentioned is more of that vibe, or...
no, Simon Rumley, The Living the Dead is not grindhouse at all.
Okay.
It's what you would call very realistically depicted psychological horror.
Okay.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah, well, I'm incredibly curious about that one, obviously.
Jesus, you did have a lot of stories.
I told you it was a month's worth of stories, but...
Yeah, you know, but we've had months worth where it was like 5 stories.
Well, let's just end it with the Clive Barker discussion.
Yeah.
I think that is, I mean, everything else, yes, we know that there is a new Scream movie that Paramount is putting out next year. David Arquette is going to be in it. We don't know if Neve Campbell is returning.
The guy's behind Ready or Not, right?
Or possibly anybody else.
Or at least that's the rumor. It hasn't been confirmed yet.
They're officially signed on for it, but we don't know anything beyond the fact that they are writing and directing. Everything else is kind of up in the air. There's also a new Stranger Things comic that is coming out, everybody, if you're into that.
A new one.
In September.
Guys, that's the fourth one.
And this one is called Science Camp, and it's about Dustin.
It's the fourth series, technically the 5th comic, because there's also Zombie Boys, which was just a one-shot instead of an actual series.
Zombie Boys,
Zombie Boys was the only good one. All the other series have been... Actually, that's not true. The very first one that told the story of Will on his side of season 1, that was good. But the two series, the one that we reviewed and the one that's almost done with issue 4, which is the sequel to the one we reviewed, which we didn't like.
6 or whatever it was?
Having to deal with the other group of kids they introduced just are garbage. Ugh.
Not so long.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, we were just trying to get the last of this, everybody. But so Hellraiser is a property that has renewed itself as being near and dear to our respective hearts because we've been going through all the Hellraiser films.
Yeah, we're doing a big Hellraiser binge right now.
Reading all of the different comic books that Clive Barker helped write with Boom Studios, right?
Yep.
If I remember correctly, and even checking some of the old anthology stuff. And the reason behind this was because there is a new movie that is in development and also an HBO Max series that is in development.
Correction, we're in development.
That's the crux here, is because of the fact that apparently these rights may revert back to Clive Barker. He actually issued some court documents recently, just this past month, like a week or so ago, where he's actually trying to get those rights back. And it's quickly turning into, Sam, what we've seen with the Friday the 13th series.
It's going to hold up everything.
Which is incredibly disconcerting. At this point, I I like Hellraiser a lot more than Friday the 13th. If we're talking about richness of
Way more interesting
of
storytelling.
mythology and so much else going on, and my love for Clive, and the fact that it's been more of a consistent vision, even if he was only a consultant for a lot of those sequels, I don't know. Is this cool to see Barker get this back and maybe do something more personally involved? Or I mean, I don't know. What do you think about this? Do you even like Hellraiser? Are you into it?
I love the first three: the Hellraiser 2, Hellbound, and Hell on Earth. The third one, maybe not as much as the first two, but still, it fits for me into the canon. And then after that, it's kind of like, no, we don't go beyond 3.
Oh man, we kind of like 4 quite a bit.
Yeah, the
we
one
like
in space. The one in space kind of.
It actually ties the mythology together and it ends it. Honestly, it's the last Hellraiser story if you really look at it that way. So I kind of dug it. It's got really creative production design and gore and I don't know. I dig 4.
I mean, I love the idea that the rights reverting back to him, and that even though this could be tied up for, like you said, like Friday the 13th for fucking years and years in court, there are just so many worthy properties the man has that he could actually explore and get into. Because I was recently in a thread there was a discussion about this whole rights thing with Hellraiser, and there's just so much stuff he could be doing. Case in point, for one thing, remember Lord of Illusions?
Yeah.
Why not do a Harry D'Amour TV series?
It could be great.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. And that would actually lead into... Because if they did a Harry D'Amour TV series and a Hellraiser TV series, it would lead into the Scarlet Gospels, which has them both.
Exactly.
So that'd be great.
Well,
and even better, Denis Villeneuve. Why not give him the rights to Imagica and let him do that? And have Clive be executive producer and shepherd that into production.
Realistically, they could just do a Scarlet Gospels TV series and just have it be a Hellraiser and Harry D'Amour story happening parallel and get into the actual Scarlet Gospels book in season 2, but in season 1 have like a separate Hellraiser story happen while there's a Harry D'Amour story happening, and then they realize they have to intertwine at the end of season 1, and then season 2 is the book, which was really cool too. I don't know. I agree with you, Sam. I think a Harry D'Amour series would be great. It's evil magicians, essentially is what he goes up against. And when they combine them in Scarlet Gospels, I'm about 4 hours away from the end of a 12-hour Scarlet Gospels audiobook, and it's cool, man. It would be great.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to remember. Harry was in that Book of Blood. He briefly in Everville. Great and Secret Show. I'm trying to remember all of his different, appearances. But he's arguably the second most iconic creation that Clive has, ever put together, and that's why he
played by Scott Bakula.
Yeah, he has gone back to him in that regard. So, yeah, then. I don't know. They're also doing a new Books of Blood, which I didn't even mention. They're doing a new Books of Blood anthology this upcoming fall on Hulu, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to do it as an anthology with just a few tales. We don't know which of the 6 they're adapting, but there is something very, I guess, like, freakishly scary about Clive Barker that is very different and more alluring than stuff that, like, a Stephen King does. He has a very, like, scary sexual sort of approach to his horror that I find kind of intimidating and yet fascinating and alluring in a different direction. That's why I haven't explored his stuff, because it freaks me out a little bit.
It's very satanic sexual. It's very, there's a moment in the Scarlet Gospels where a demon is standing next to Harry D'Amour on the street, and it's like this huge massive demon, and it just starts pleasuring itself, but only Harry D'Amour can see it, and it's like it tells Harry to like tell him he's not going to get away with it and stuff like that. And it's just like, dude, Clive, you're twisted, bro.
No,
but,
Clive Barker does not fuck around at all, man.
Clive is twisted, dude.
Like, I appreciate so much about the fact that he lets it hang out, man, and I was just reading the beginning of Damnation game again recently, where he's talking about all of the sordid nastiness that is happening with this gambler in the post-World War II Russia, and just, I mean, children and like animal, just all kinds of stuff, man. It's nuts. The guy just shows how depraved and just crazed people can be at times, and he doesn't shy away from it. Those are the real horrors that more vanilla guys like Cy King don't always explore, except for stuff like It, which we don't always talk about.
Yeah, comparatively speaking, if you're gonna weigh the two authors against each other, Stephen King, if there's an adult arcade in hell, he'd be a customer, getting getting his quarters and trying out the little different booths and stuff.
Yeah,
Clive Barker, that motherfucker built the damn arcade, so he knows what little movies and what little secrets and just skeevy things are lurking about in that building. So that's how I compare it to.
That's probably not a far off. That's not a incorrect analogy, I wouldn't imagine.
Well, and also the fact that Clive is such a visual guy. I was watching a doc recently about all of his paintings and just the amazing amount of creativity he has as a visual person, which King isn't an artist or anything, but Clive has that skill too, and it's ridiculously dope. So
I wonder if we could maybe call on Tim to see if we could actually get Clive on the show at some point.
He always talks about his connections with Clive.
Blood Red Sky sent $2 in saying Hellraiser 3 had those Japanese anime sound effects. Yeah. Hellraiser 3 is weird. Like, I have to get that Arrow re-release because the Hellraiser 3 that I have is not only the pan and scan version along with part 2, so I need to get widescreens, but also, you're right, it was so goddamn dark.
That's what Robert was
Couldn't
saying,
see anything that was going on,
so
I need a new transfer of that. Chance Moody sent $5. Thanks for the show, guys. Good times. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Horror Struck 666 is here. Lord of Illusions was dope. So all right. I think we've
there was a lot to
accomplished
cover,
what we set out to accomplish, you guys.
And I'm happy everybody bore with just a lengthy list of notes for us to kind of go through today. So,
we had a lot to go over, so we've been going almost an hour and a half, so I think that's a good length of time for the news. Sam, do you have any other thoughts on the news or anything like that?
I think you guys pretty much covered the waterfront on that, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more news spinning out in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, we do. Fingers firmly crossed. We had that dry spell for a while when everything seemed like it was hitting the shit fan. So
yeah. All right then. Well, I think that's as good a place to end it for this month for our Patreon hangout as well as our news catch up for this month. Just happened to be a good combination here. I don't know if we'll continue to do it this way in the future or not. We shall see. But thank you very much to Sam for joining us once again. Thank you, sir.
So much of a grande gracias, man.
Thanks for having me.
Totally,
of course. So thank you guys, all of you, for watching and catching up on the news with us. We'll be back tomorrow. I believe tomorrow we have our Patreon review of Motel Hell. And then Tuesday we have our a June horror haul where I show a lot of cool stuff that I picked up over the last couple months. And then Wednesday, I believe, is the first Last of Us Part 2 Let's Play highlights episode. So lots of great stuff. If you're interested, go check out the Horror Show Facebook, the Horror Show channel on Facebook, or at Horror Show 666 on Twitter, or the Horror Show 666 on Instagram. I actually just today posted 2 different collages, each with 30 different thumbnails. So there are essentially thumbnails for 60 different episodes that are ready to go and going to be released in the channel in the near future. So if you're interested to see what's coming up, go check that out. You can take a look at those pictures and see what you have to look forward to. But that's going to do it for this episode, you guys. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Abenjamin Fuego.
And Sam Glass in Sin City.
All right. And remember, guys, stay
Stay
scared.
Stay scared.